I gave my LinkedIn link. I thought it was more impressive anyway. I'm not a scientist. I'm just wearing this lab coat, so hopefully it will lend some credibility to what I'm about to say. So I'm talking about the new space race. So what's so new about it? Is it really that different, or is it basically the same thing? So I'm trying to convince you that it is. And the new developments in the space race and all these developments in the 21st century are going to be very different from the 20th century. So let's look at the first space race, Sputnik Moment 1.0. It started with Sputnik. In 1957, soon after NASA was founded, JFK said, let's go to the moon, and doggone it, in 1969, we were on the moon. That's the space race. But why did it happen? Sputnik presented a clear danger to the United States. People thought that they were going to drop nuclear bombs on us. People also thought that the communists would win the ideological war. This was the time where the United States was fighting hot wars with Russia. So it was a very, very serious issue. And it answers the question of space development, which is who writes the checks? We all know space is cool. We all know we should be going there more often. But this is the fundamental question. If nobody pays for it, if there's not a reason for it, it doesn't happen. So let's go to Sputnik Moment 2.0. And you may recognize this from Barry Obama's State of the Union 2011, where he said that the Sputnik Moment 2.0 is that we need to out-innovate, out-educate, and out-build the rest of the world. It's not as exciting as having nuclear bombs dropped on us, but let's imagine for a moment that China is on the moon. You open up the Star Tribune, and this is on it. What does that mean? Do we think that China will present a military threat? Are we afraid that people will be won over to the Chinese way of doing things? We won't. The Sputnik moment will come from our fear of falling behind in education, our fear in falling behind in new energy, and our fear in falling behind, more importantly, in manufacturing jobs and the high-tech industry, which is becoming more and more important. This is what the new Sputnik is. This is what we mean, because the new space race is going to be about economic competitiveness. It's going to be about resources, mining asteroids. It's going to be about trade. It's going to be about research. And of course, it will be about military and political. If you're a good American, that image of the Chinese, you should have said, that should be us. But it will change. So let's look at 1.0. So private space development, if you can't see, that's Homer Hickam in October Sky. So they're just lighting fuses. And NASA is the real money bags. They're the ones launching Saturn V's. They're the ones where all the development is coming from. In 2.0, that's the Dragon capsule, and below is the Virgin space plane. And NASA, as you know, is retiring the shuttle, or they already have retired the shuttle. And you may not have seen this graph particularly, but we all know that NASA's budget is going down and down. So really, the tides have kind of turned. And one of the things that's causing that is the fact that it's becoming cheaper and cheaper. So a calculator now has as much power as like the Apollo lander. And those iPhones you're playing with at this moment, as you're supposed to be listening to, they're unbelievably more powerful. It's cheaper and cheaper to do this. And so, especially with 1984 and the 1999, these two acts kind of opened the door to that. So whereas private industry used to say, let your government do the space traveling, boy, more and more it's becoming relied upon that private industry is making these changes, which is kind of the second big thing about the new space race, which is privatization. The private space industry is growing rapidly, and it's becoming more and more capable, and it's becoming more and more cheap. That's unmanned and manned. And what happens when the space industry grows, what happens when consumers find value in this, is it becomes amazing quickly. Like, that's, original computers developed by the government, developed by the Air Force, becoming this consumer product. It's slick, it's cheap, it's very accessible. And the government buying from consumer companies, especially in these high-tech areas, is not uncommon. It may sound weird that our shuttle will be built by Boeing, but the government already buys its defense contracts. McDonnell Douglas is a subsidiary of Boeing. So what you fly to Chicago in they're the same company that builds the jets. And also another thing that's interesting about the new space race is the social aspect of it. This is ISON. It's a local project to send a rocket into space, 100 kilometers. And this is just, you may have seen one of those that people send balloons up into space. So it's becoming more visible, and it's becoming more accessible that people can do it. The Hubble telescope for a while was going to be slated to be taken down, or they weren't going to invest any more money in it. But because of the social outreach, and because people really valued it, it's remained. So more and more NASA's paying attention. And so it brings up the question of what is NASA's role in this new space race? NASA's not going to go away. As you can tell by the graphic of a rocket burning money, NASA is still super rich. And they still have an enormous brain trust. And we should celebrate this, though, because the new space race, although it will be private, although it will be more diffuse and not maybe as like magnificent per se, it still will cause all of these wonderful, wonderful changes, including if you saw the Armageddon movies and all those wonderful memory foams and things. It won't have to happen because of wars. It won't have to happen because of political pressure. It will be economic, and it'll be private. And that's it. And I think I'm the last speaker, so let's go drink.